I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we're discussing my book, A Rose Commencement. Now, this is an anthology that I put out last year, and these are all graduation stories, especially girl graduations and young woman graduations from around the turn of the 20th century. When I was originally putting this book together, I had originally envisioned it as an anthology of graduation stories in general. But when I was looking for graduation stories in the course of reading our antique books and magazines and picking out the graduation stories, there was such an overwhelming preponderance of graduation stories with a female bent to them, and very, very few graduation stories for the guys, that I decided, okay, I'm just going to roll with it and have that be the theme of this anthology, that these are all graduation stories for girls, because that was overwhelmingly what I was finding. Which surprised me at first until I dug a little deeper and realized that, at least in terms of the high school graduations, there were a lot more young women and girls graduating high school than young men and boys, because a lot of the boys were getting pulled out to do farm work.
Or to work in family businesses.
Or to work in family
else.
businesses.
Yep.
Whereas the girls, they were mostly staying until they graduated, either because they wanted to go on to teaching college, and for that they needed their high school diploma, or just because they wanted to get the most they could out of things, and their families weren't pressuring them quite as much to go out and make money as they were pressuring their brothers, or to work the farm as they were pressuring their brothers. So the girls were graduating in higher numbers, which surprised me, but was kind of fun.
Honestly, though, the numbers still bear that out in college, at least.
Yeah. Although at this point, there were more men going on to college than women going on to college.
Depends on which sort. Those normal schools were still far more women.
The teaching schools, yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. That's true. And there are some college stories in here, too, which are pretty fun. There's a story of a Vassar girl's graduation.
And there's a Smith College one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Smith, not Vassar. And this is a combination of fiction and nonfiction pieces that I found from our antique books and magazines. I put this out last year, but we're just now getting around to doing a book talk about it.
And we're coming up on graduations.
On graduations, so we figured it was a good time. And the nonfiction pieces, there are some where they're recalling and telling about these actual graduations of real graduating classes. And the title of Rose Commencement comes from one where they had just one guy graduating and the rest were all girls, so that they decided to theme the graduation ceremony around roses. And I don't know how the guy felt about that. But
I'm sure he didn't have much say.
He didn't have much say. And the fiction pieces are all really sweet. My personal favorite is the story that originally appeared in a newsletter for the blind. And it's the story of a young woman who has just graduated from a college for the blind, and she goes home really excited about how much of a contribution she can make to her family, even though she is blind. And no one believes she can contribute. And now what I liked about that story is that as she proves how really valuable she is, she's not just proving her own worth as a young woman who's had this challenge of blindness. I think it's also, in its way, the story of every graduate, every young person who has finished a period of schooling and comes to the point of saying, now what? And is confronting a world that doesn't believe they can do anything. And they have to prove that they can actually be a really valuable part of this world, and that they really do have something to contribute. And
that they have learned something.
And that they have learned something that's valuable. And even those of us who aren't blind, we still go through that. I think everyone goes through that when they graduate. This period of no one believes you actually have learned anything of value, but you have to prove you can.
Right.
So I think that is applicable to every graduate. There's another one, The Haunted Coat, where this young woman is looking through the attic at old memories, and she finds a relative's old coat from when he was young, and she's got this sort of dream of this other generation graduating, and it's this looking forward and looking backwards, which is very appropriate for a graduation because they all sort of evoke that Janice-like period. And there are some bits in here about graduation gowns and how those came about, and how America shifted from a custom of all the graduating young women wearing pretty dresses that were of a fashionable style to everyone wearing these very medieval style cap and gowns.
Yes.
And so there are some stories about that. And then there's a story of a woman who has graduated college, or has left college, gone on, lived her life, and is considering going back to school, and she meets one of her old professors. And the professor winds up admiring this younger woman because she realizes that in just a few years, this woman who is much younger than her and is actually a former student has actually lived more life and lived a fuller life than she ever has, locked up in her ivory tower of academia. And so she tells her, "You have lived more than I have," which is a very inspiring story about how it's good to have knowledge, but life and living are the most important things. So, a bunch of really fun stories in here, and I hope you'll check it out. And I also think that this would make a really good present for someone who's graduating too. Either high school or college, both, and especially young women who are graduating, I think would really enjoy this. So, I hope you'll look into it. And I hope you'll look into my other books too, of course. But thank you for watching today, and we hope you enjoyed this video. And happy reading!